All right, so to kind of start where we left off the other day, you guys need to make sure you have your pencils, okay? And again, I would recommend kind of holding them in your hand in order of lightest to darkest. So make sure you have your 4H pencil, then your 3B pencil, and then your 6B pencil, okay? So have all three of those in your opposite hand. You want to have your kneaded eraser, which is the gray eraser, and then a pink eraser if you need that. And then you need to have your scrap piece of paper. Again, make sure that that scrap piece of paper, guys, is on top of the parts of your drawing that you're not working on, so that you're not rubbing all of that off with your drawing arm. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of zoom into this. I'm going to continue to work a little bit more up above the eye here, just kind of carving off or carving in the form of that puffy part of our eye. And then we'll start, and then I'll also too come into the corner of the eye and start actually carving out the top bridge of my nose. And then we'll move into the eyebrow and underside. Okay. So I'm going to go back to using my 4H pencil again. I want to make sure I have a nice edge to shade with, so I want to kind of sand that edge down on my graphite pencil. And then I'm going to just start working on this. And I want to carve out this form. Now remember, guys, it is important that when you guys are working on this stuff, that you're really taking time to look at the shape that these values are making on your face, because this is what makes you look like you. Okay? I'm just going to kind of work in this area here. And see, now that I'm kind of working in the corner of my eye, I should start to see the bridge of my nose pop out now. And I should not need that line that I drew there anymore. I want it to start looking like a form and not an outline. So once I start to get this established real well with my 4H pencil, then I can go in with my 3B and darken stuff up even more where it needs it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start working kind of under my eye. And when I do this, I want to get that lower eyelid to start popping out. So as you can see it right now, it just looks, you can still see the outline, the original line that I used for the drawing. So I want to start carving that out. So I want to look for, again, the shape that these values are creating. And this will also start to kind of define your tear duct even too a little bit more. Now we're all going to get sort of like a dark shadow underneath our eye because, again, our eyeball sits inside of an eye socket, and that's deep in our head. And when I'm shading, I guess I should say this too, I'm kind of using these like little circles, kind of going around in little circles when I'm shading. I find that that kind of gives it, I don't know, nice smooth look, and then I'm kind of blending out my lines as I'm working. Now, while you're working on this under eye area, you're also you're actually working on your you're also working out your cheek and part of your nose. So we're kind of doing all those things all at once. So again, once I've kind of exhausted everything that I can do with my 4H pencil, I'm going to move on to my 3B. So I'm going to move on to my 3B now. Now remember, guys, you should be working on both eyes at the same time. Now that I've kind of carved out my lower eyelid, I'm going to shade that. Now that I can see where that is a little bit better. And again, it's the same thing, as with a lot of the other stuff, is that as you get closer to the corners of your eye, whether it be the outer or the inner, you will see it get darker. The other thing, too, that you guys are going to notice is that your top eyelid is going to put a pretty good shadow on the very top part of your eyeball. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do the eyelashes. Okay, so the eyelashes, and I'm going to kind of zoom in, see if I can get a little bit closer to this eye. The eyelashes, a lot of people make some big mistakes in the eyelashes in the sense that they think that they're all the same length, that they think they all are evenly spaced out, and they are not like that at all. It does not matter how much time you spent with that little eyelash, brush trying to separate your eyelashes after you've put mascara on. They're still going to kind of clump together, okay? So what I would advise you guys to do is just kind of watch this when I do it, and then you guys can do it yourself on your eyelashes. But I'm going to kind of talk while I do it, so that way hopefully it's a little bit easier for you guys to understand. So I'm going to use I'm going to see if I can just start with my 4H pencil. But when you do your eyelashes, they grow out from your top eyelid, okay? So when I do this, I'm going to start at the top of my eyelid. I'm going to dip down a little bit, and then I'm going to draw it. Actually, that's not going to show up. I'm going to have to do my 3B. Okay? And so that's how I'm going to draw each one of these. Now you'll notice that when you draw your eyelashes, also too, the length of the lashes changes from the inner to the middle to the outer part of the eye. You'll notice is that the eyelashes here on the inner part are really short. And I'm kind of using my crease as a landmark as far as are they, how long they are. Do they go past the crease or are they shorter than crease? So that's what I'm using to help me with drawing them. And then you'll even see the directions of them change. So I'm just going to kind of go through here. And again, when I'm drawing them, I'm starting at that top eyelid and I'm kind of drawing them down a little bit and then back up, because they grow out of the top eyelid. And then when I get closer to the outer part of my eye, that's when I see a little bit longer of a length. They're getting longer. And I'm seeing more of them from the side now. Whereas the eyelashes here in the middle, I'm looking at them from the front. They're coming straight towards me. And the ones here on the side, because they're starting to wrap around my eyeball, now I can see the whole length of them. I can see them from the side. So there are my eyelashes there for the top. And then I'm going to draw my lower eyelashes. And I'm going to go back to my 4H because my lower eyelashes, your lower eyelashes are typically much thinner hair. And they're very sporadic. So again, make sure that you're drawing them out. I'm going to have to use the 3B again, I think. Make sure that you're drawing them so they appear like they're growing out of the lower eyelid. So you don't want to put them right up here on that top edge where it looks like it's coming out of your eyeball. You want it to look like it's coming out of your eyelid. So just the bottom edge. And again, they're kind of sporadic. Just like that. So then what I'm going to do to finish these off, so I had to use my 3B to start them. I'm going to go in with my 6B pencil. I'm going to sharpen my pencil before I do this. So I'm going to go in with my 6B pencil, and I'm just going to go at the base of each one of these top eyelashes. And I'm just going to make them just a little bit thicker and a little bit darker, because hair is always thicker at the root. And then at the end of the hair, that's where it's pretty thin. So I'm just doing all of this work with the 3B or the 6B, just right at the root of the hair. So there's that part. And then before I finish up the eye, at least as far as I have, your top eyelid is going to, because it's like a roof, it's going to put a shadow right on the very top part of your eyeball. And so what I'm going to do is take my 4H pencil, I'm going to start with that, get myself a nice edge to shade with, and I'm just going to shade right on the very top part of my eyelid. I'm going to go right on top of my white of my eye and my iris and give it a little bit of a cast shadow from the top eyelid. And that should pretty much, get me to a good place on the eye. Now, am I finished? Probably absolutely not. So this is going to be stuff that I'll go back and continue kind of work on, here and there. I'm going to try to lighten up these lower eyelashes a little bit. They're a little dark. So there are the eyelashes. Okay. And I like to try to just throw in some really light ones with my 4H pencil because, again, there's eyelashes that are pretty thin, barely there, hard to see. Okay, so let's talk about eyebrows. So for the eyebrows, it's kind of similar to the eyelashes, in the sense that the length of the hair is different, in all different parts of the eyebrow. The other thing, too, that you'll notice with your eyebrows is that you don't necessarily always see every single hair. You'll notice that, and I want you guys to kind of look in the mirror while you're drawing or shading, or while I'm talking about your eyebrows, is if you look in the mirror, you'll notice that the eyebrow hairs on the inner part of your eye are really short. And then when you get, and there's not so many of them, and then when you move towards the center of your eyebrow, that's where your hairs get longer and you get more. And because you have more hair, you see less line. And then as you go to the outer part of your eyebrow, that's where you see still a little bit longer hair, but it starts to thin out a little bit. And again, you go back to sort of like what you saw at the beginning where you see the hairs. So what I'm going to do, I want to make sure that this outline that I have, or the shape that I drew, is pretty well erased. And I'm going to start drawing my eyebrow hairs. I am going to start with my 4H pencil. So when I'm drawing my eyebrow hairs, I want to take note of the length of the hair and the direction that they're growing in. And I'm going to draw them exactly the way that I see them in the mirror. Not every hair is going in the right direction or in the same direction. In fact, you'll notice that some of them are like going kind of crazy. And your outside edge or your shape of your eye is not, or your eyebrow is not perfect. So we want to kind of break up this edge that we initially drew for our shape. I'm always surprised at how many of the eyebrow hair lines that I actually see kind of cross-hatching each other. One could be completely going in the opposite direction. Alright, so I've started drawing those in with my 4H, so now I'm going to go in, switch gears, and go to my 3B pencil. Now, depending on how light or dark your eyebrow hair is, you'll be adding either more or less dark hairs. So now what I'm going to go do is I'm going to find those areas where the hair is a little bit thicker, and I'm going to actually start to kind of, not necessarily add lines in, but sort of shade in the area to kind of fill it in. And kind of getting that sort of patchiness look so it does still look like it's hair. And again, keeping in mind that the edge of my hair is not perfect. And again, you'll notice that you actually see less of those individual hairs in the middle part of your eyebrow where you just got more hair in general, so it just kind of covers up some of those details. And then I go through and just add a little bit more pressure in some of the areas where I just see a little bit more contrast. So I'm going back through and just kind of picking and choosing what needs to be a little bit darker. And then finally, if I need it, I'll go in with some 6B. Okay, so after you're finished with your eyelashes and eyebrows, it's all about you guys just continuing to go in and build up your values according to what you see. Now that you've got, your eyelashes and your eyebrows on, you might see something that needs to be sort of fixed or addressed or just filled in a little bit more. Maybe some of the stuff needs to be darker. But this should help kind of define where you're at and where you need to go. And just a little bit of advice too, whenever I find that I'm having a hard time kind of blending some areas, I find that the 4H pencil kind of acts as like a blending tool. So feel free to try that and see if that helps you. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is try to finish up your eye area. Kind of see what it looks like before and after. And then tomorrow, do I see you guys? Yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll start working on the nose and cheeks. So that will help kind of fill in some of the gaps that we might have today.